Hello, good evening. Can everyone hear me? Hello, good evening.
Hello.
Hi, good evening. My name is Mercy. I'm happy to have you all join today. Where our panel is supposed to tackle the many hurdles that women in Nigeria face in their political ambition. Perhaps I should start by introducing the panelists. Can everybody hear me? I just want to be sure.
Yeah.
Okay, great. Hi. Hello.
Hi.
Okay.
Hi.
I just want to know if Yasmin Bello Osage is with us. Yes, she is. Yasmin is
so sorry. Hi.
Hi, Yasmin. Yasmin is the co-founder, She Leads Africa. Welcome with the work you're doing.
Thank you.
I think I've followed some of your programs across the country. Well done.
Thank you. I hope they were good.
Yeah,
Well
great.
done.
Yeah,
Well done. I have as well.
Thank you. And Darren, I feel like we have to say happy birthday, but happy belated birthday. I feel like it was all over my Instagram page. I don't want to start without saying happy birthday.
Thank you so much. Thank you.
Happy birthday. I never knew it was your birthday. So thanks, Yasmin, for that. Happy birthday.
Thank you. Thank you so much. Thank you.
And you're coming out to do this for us on your birthday, so it means a lot. So
No, my birthday was last week.
Yeah, it was last week. Yeah. Yeah.
Okay. Okay, that's.
I just creep on a lot of her friends, I guess.
Yeah.
Okay, that's fair enough. That means I have to go back to Adelinola because it's her birthday. She's an entrepreneur, a content creator, and a lifestyle consultant. She's also on this panel. Welcome.
Thank you.
And happy birthday in arrears.
Thank you.
Is Nkiruka with us? Nkiruka Olumide Ojo is the Lighthouse Network. She's also on the panel. Mic check. I can't see her. Okay. I'll probably move to the next person. Ibijoke, the co-founder, elect her. Is she with us? Yes, I think I saw her a while ago. Okay, I can't see. Okay, I just start. Perhaps they can join us at some point. Let's start with Yasmin. There's been a lot of conversation about women in politics, and it's something that I'm very much passionate about. But again, I won't start this panel without fact-checking this panel. Our panel is supposed to say why Nigeria has never had a female governor. Just a bit of a fact check. I think we've had a female governor, even though she lasted for just 3 months. That's Dame Virginia Ngozi Etiebet in Anambra State. She was the governor.
That was deputy or something.
Yeah, she became governor. The court sacked Peter Obi. Of course, he went to an appeal and he got his judgment back, but she was governor for 3 months. So we cannot erase that part of history completely without acknowledging that. Yeah. So but just again, back to the conversation. Why Nigeria has never had a female governor. I have, observed elections in most states in the country, and I have seen that are the major voting blocks if you want to win an election in Nigeria. Yasmin, this question is to you. Why do you think a woman is yet to get to such an important position in the country amidst the growing number of votes from that same constituency?
Sure. I mean, it's something that I guess, confuses and, befuddles me still. I think, my assumption is it's probably for a lot of the reasons why you don't see women. You haven't seen a woman president. You haven't seen a woman vice president. I think it's because governorship elections tend to be very expensive. They require you to raise large amounts of money. And the types of parallels you see, like in the business space, in the corporate space, it's generally like much for women, like even if they're entrepreneurs, to raise money. And if you think that parallel will also exist in the political space, I assume that it would be something that's similar. It's very, very expensive to win a governorship. It's very, very expensive to become the president of Nigeria. And so if you're not able to actually mobilize the money that you need to do that, then you're unlikely to be very successful. And I think perhaps this is why we've seen slightly more success with women in appointed offices. When you look at our ministers, we've had now, the Minister of Finance, for example, now for the last basically kind of like 3 cycles, at least 3 cycles has been a woman. So we've seen women in elected positions, but in appointed positions, but not elected. And so I've always assumed that it has something to do with just the amount of money that you need to actually run for office and the types of challenges that women have when trying to raise that money.
But again, follow up before I come back to Aderinola. Aderinola, please don't kill me. I'm just trying to pull through your name. Perhaps I should just end it with Ade. It's fine. Yasmin, you said something that I think is very important. To win an election in Nigeria, even at the gubernatorial or senatorial level, you need billions and billions of naira. This is a fact on ground. But men have done this over the years. Does this have anything to do with the unequal pay gap and economic levels of the men and the women?
I think it will be a number of different things. I mean, one, the pay gap is real, but I mean, most governors do not become governors purely with their own money. So they go out and raise money, and we typically find that women tend to have challenges raising money for 2 reasons. First, it's because typically kind of when you're trying to raise money, you go through your networks. Women tend to have networks with more women. Men tend to have networks with more men. Men typically tend to have more money. So, it's pretty simple how it's more challenging for a woman. I think that the second one is that even in the event that you're not just going through your networks, you need serious players to actually take you seriously. So then they will actually give you the money and they will back you. We find that in Nigeria, people just typically don't tend to take women as seriously as leaders. And so it's always typically much harder to actually get people to commit money to you. And I think you see the same thing in the business space, which is the area that kind of She Leads Africa is much more active in and that I know slightly more about. But it seems to have now reflected itself in the political space as well.
Ade, back to you now. Yasmin has said something that I think it's important just to follow up from you. The issue of working and to raise funds. If there's anything I have seen or I have observed over the last 5 years in Nigeria is the appeal funding. Do you think that is something women should start looking towards ahead of subsequent elections coming up across the country, especially at the gubernatorial level? Because I know that a lot more women across the states keep trying to aspire, trying to get the parties to back them, even if they're not, within the major political parties of the PDP and the APC. But we've still gotten, even during the last election, gubernatorial candidates that are women in at least 12 Nigerian states, but they did not go far. Nobody even heard about them. Do you think the option is crowdsourcing fund?
Okay, so I think that it plays a role in it, but I don't think crowdsourcing funds is basically like the main content as to why women have not been able to be in such a position. I honestly think, just like Yasmin said, it has something to also do with they just don't take women as seriously as they should. I don't think the Nigerian man would typically want to see a woman in that kind of position, because it's the most powerful position for the states. So I kind of just feel like it's more of an ego thing for them than it being that the woman, because I'm sure there are women that can afford to or can crowdsource the funds to become governors that can that kind of amount of need, but I just think they just will not be taken seriously. It's way more than money. It's more about our culture and the country as a whole, and how men are just assumed that they are only the type. It's just assumed that it's only a man that should be in that kind of position. If look at the example of America now. As much as everybody says that they are woke, it took how many years before a woman could become an elected vice president, if you get what I mean. So yeah, that's what I think.
I'm suspecting, trying to say that there's still the patriarchy thing that is there. We're going to go back to that. But but if there's anything COVID COVID has been able to show us, the rest of the world, is that we've seen women show competence from Germany to New Zealand, you know,
Yes, yes.
and their management of the crisis has been outstanding. So would you say that competence is not enough when it comes to women? I don't want to restrict it to women supporting women, even though I know that that's a debate we're still going to move forward towards, you know, at some point in this conversation. But generally, is competence never enough for a woman to be backed and to be supported, to take as even getting to a point of you know, being sworn in or being elected as governor of a state in Nigeria?
Personally, I think competence is enough, because if you think the next man is competent enough to be in that position, I should be competent enough to be in the same position. For me, I think competence is enough to be in that position. It's just, there's just so many factors surrounding it that would hinder a woman from being considered, even if she had the funds, even if she had the backing. I just think there are too many things, especially in this country, that would hinder a woman from being in that particular position.
Now you're okay. At this stake is scary. I mean, if I had any plans, you know, of going into politics, if I listen to you, I'll just, you know, just. But again,
No,
yeah,
like, of course you have to you know, keep breaking barriers and doing things, but we have to also be realistic.
Yeah.
I know that everything that happened recently, everybody thinks that, oh my God, you know, things can change in 2023. But trust me, the system has been going for over 40 years. So it's not going to take one, you know, like election for everything to change. We're going to have to keep doing the same thing. People have to keep putting in so much effort, election after election, before you can see any kind of change, before we can even get to the fact of them even recognizing a woman and thinking that she's worthy enough to be in that kind of position. First, everybody that is there has to go. First, everybody that is in position right now, they actually all have to go, whatever.
But are you optimistic? Yasmin, I'm coming to you. But are you optimistic about the generation of these women? Yasmin is doing a brilliant job with She Leads Africa. You're also doing great work with what, you know, the work.
Oh, I am.
And every woman on this panel, every woman on this panel is doing great.
I'm really, really optimistic. I am. Like, I'm really happy to see, like, you know, how women are like forging ahead and doing things. It's amazing to see, because I never would have thought that, you know, it's just nice to see it happen. But still being realistic, it's not just, you know, just like I would say, the people that vote and the people that everything happens in elections are not the people on media. You know, it's not a me or a Yasmin. It's not us that you need. I know that a woman is competent enough. She knows. You also know. But you need to go and convince the grassroots people. You know, you need to go and convince the next person that doesn't have a phone, that doesn't even know what's happening on the internet, as to understand why a woman should come and be in that position. Because most families, or a typical Nigerian, or still has that thing about a man being the head. I don't know if that makes sense.
It does, absolutely does. It absolutely does. And I like the point you raised about beyond our social circle, because sometimes we end up talking to ourselves over and over again.
Oh, we end up talking to ourselves, because the people that matter in elections, they are not on Instagram or Twitter. They don't have these apps. You know, you have to go to the market, you have to go into the corner shops, you have to go under the bridge, you have to go into those areas where people are very uncomfortable going. Those are the people that vote. Those are the people that amass those, when you hear the amount of millions of votes, those are the people that amass those amounts of counts of votes. It's not, of course, my vote counts, you know, your vote counts, but the people that have their cards and are willing to stay under the sun from 7 a.m. to 7 p.m. and Instagram. I don't know if you understand what I'm saying.
Yeah, I do understand. And grassroots mobilization is something I'm going to take up with Yasmin much later. But before I go back to Yasmin, we have Nkiru Olumide Ojo. She joined us a while ago. She's the co-founder of the Lighthouse Network. And we also have Ibijoke, co-founder.
I've asked to join.
Hi, Ibijoke. We're waiting for you guys.
Oh, right, cool. So sorry, I had
Welcome.
issues connection, yeah.
Your internet, are you okay?
Can you hear me message?
Yes, I can hear you clearly.
Okay, I think it was just I think it was just the network and the browser, so I had to call the team breaks. It's good now. So sorry about that, please.
No, it's okay. You're welcome.
All right.
Hi, Nkiru.
Hi everyone.
Hi, hello ladies. Lovely to see you and happy to be here.
Same here. Before you guys joined us, where I am Yasmin Bello Osage. She's a co-founder. She leads Africa, and Aderimala, where she's also a content curator, a lifestyle consultant. We're talking about women in leadership and how vote for to lead as governor of any Nigerian state. How I just, I had to explain that we had Dame Virginia Anambra State, who was the first quote unquote first governor, even though it was for 3 months, but it took the ouster of Peter Obi by the court for her to stay for 3 months. But I felt like it was an important fact that we needed to add to this conversation, just so that we do not erase that part of history completely. Because when we say that why Nigeria has never had, it's not a completely fact. We've had, but we can question it, but not say never had. So let's give it to Dame that she was a governor at some point. Welcome.
Right.
I'm going to go back to Yasmin now. Yeah, and when I'm done with Yasmin, then we'll come back to Ibijoke and Kiru as well, so we can continue the conversation. Yasmin, I think Ades touched on an issue that I wanted us to talk about. Grassroots mobilization during elections is very, very powerful. is as important as any given election ever. President Muhammadu Buhari's prominence and popularity comes from the grassroots level. Most people that have gone far during elections had the base with the grassroots. Beyond social media, I am not going to dismiss the reach and the influence of social media, given the fact that right now we have millions and millions of young people across Twitter, Facebook, Instagram in Nigeria. But we need to get down to the 774 local government areas in Nigeria if we want to be able to get the numbers out. How do we do that?
So, okay, when it comes to kind of the electoral math, my understanding, and I know that someone like Ibijoke will just know much more than me, is that voter turnout in Nigeria is actually very, very low. Yeah. And so that's why it's not clear voter turnout is very low, and it is not clear to me that people vote based on competence. Again, maybe I would be wrong. So that's why when there was the discussion of, is a woman more competent or not, to me, that's kind of the wrong question, because I don't even think right now people vote based on competence. I think that, there's a whole host of other incentives that are given to people to mobilize, to get out to vote. And so that's why for me, and maybe I'm a very cynical person and I know that I am.
No, you're not. You're just
there's so much, to me, I just think that money moves politics in Nigeria. And you mobilize people with money. And I think that I'm not sure of this, but I would be very curious. And I'm really curious about what my director is going to say, but it's like, I do believe that if you had a woman that could mobilize enough money, I do believe that she could become a governor of a state, especially when you think about the fact that the voter turnout is so low. Do you see what I mean? So it's not even like, we're not at the point yet where there's so many people coming out to vote that it's like issues based, and then they're going to be like, no, I don't want the woman. I find that, look, Nigerians can be very, very sexist. It is true. I don't want to discount any of that, but people a bit more like, when it's money versus your sexism, I find that, they'll find a way to overlook the sexism that's in their heart. So that's kind of the way I typically think about these things. And so for me, it's the broader question that I ask myself is, why is it that money doesn't flow to female candidates? Why are they not able to raise the money? because I do believe that if they could, I think that it would be a slightly different discussion that we're having. It's just my perspective, but curious to obviously hear from like everyone else on the panel, and Kira as well, like people who I think have more experience in the political space than I perhaps do.
Ibijoke, you do a great work trying to get all the women. I'm sure if you have your way, you get all of us on this to go contest for elections at different
Absolutely.
but beyond the work Electa is doing, I mean I know that during the last elections, more women turned out to try. And to try now, I mean, it wasn't, you know what, I want to back home. I saw women get through, and they scaled through almost all the hurdles to the point where they emerged flag bearers at different levels across the country. But guess what? At the end of the day, the number of even women at the parliament, as compared to what we had before, reduced drastically. So every year, women that even end up at the National Assembly in Nigeria right now keeps reducing. It shows that, for some reasons, forces are, fighting harder, so women do not even gain as much presence as they used to get in parliament. You keep saying, ladies go and vote. Beyond ladies going out to vote, Yasmin said something. Money first, money second, and money third. That's the conversation electorates want to hear. Given the presence of vote buying across the country as well, Yasmin is completely correct. How then can elect her, beyond telling us to vote, ensure that women understand how to mobilize the resources as well?
Thank you very much, Mercy. That's like a whole lot of questions packed in one. Thank you, Yasmin. I really, really agree with you. I'm just going to speak a bit to what Yasmin spoke about. And I remember having a conversation with someone, I think a couple of weeks ago, and it said something, it was like, when a country is in survival mode, the absence of common sense is inevitable. And that's very, very true. That's why you're seeing the whole conversation around stomach infrastructure now, what's happening, the lack of ideology. People are not voting based on competency or ideologies, right? People are, there's a whole lot of business of election that happens during the political period. And unfortunately, the men have actually really mastered that, and women are still playing catch up, right? So just talk about what Electa is doing. And we recognize and understand that fact. And that's why when we talk about Electa, so we're going beyond the idea of engaging people. So we have a 4E model, and essentially engage, encourage, equip, and enable. And obviously, they're moving pieces. So the part of engagement is what we're doing right now, interacting. If you go to like our social media, we share a lot of thought leadership, just helping electorates understand things. And I'll tell you, some of the content actually shared about gender discriminatory policies. Some people have archived it like 1,000 times. It just shows you that information gap. And so for me is when people say, oh, look, people don't vote on social media, I need us to reconsider, and I'll tell you why, right? So during Buhari's support in 2015, there was the Buhari Support Fund, right? And there's a whole lot of financial infrastructure that was based off social media and technology. So I feel those things all work together. So you can't separate social media from grassroots support. I feel like there needs to be you need to marry those two together. Secondly is, yes, Nigerian elections are still largely expensive. Running for the office of the governor, for example, the Electoral Act 2006 put a legal limit, I think it was about 100 million naira. And then going back to the Electoral Act 2010, it's now 200 million. That's 100%. And women are just, now we're seeing more and more women, young women, we're seeing like an intergenerational distribution of wealth, even though it's still at the lowest level, but you're seeing much more women advance in their career. If you look at, how many years ago, so look at the cost of elections, how many women could actually really afford that? So it almost feels like at that discussion of finance, right, women are already at a huge disadvantage. You have a cohesive ecosystem when it comes to men, right? So for the by-elections, for example, I was speaking with someone and someone said, we already know the candidates. We funded this guy since now. You understand? Some of the women have not even raised 1 million or 2 million. It just really shows you that women also need to understand the culture of fundraising as well, right? it's very important tapping into your immediate network, tapping into that different organizations, using social media. Social media can really buy empathy for you. And I think it's about tapping into what social media can do. It's a very powerful tool for fundraising, to be very honest. And in terms of what we're going to do, I mean, as elector, one thing I would say is we're very bold about it, and it's a bit unpopular in the development space when an organization in my case wants to really fund candidates. But one thing I remember, I spoke with two organizations over the past, and they were like, oh, you know what, you're being a bit too political and you're trying to fund women. I said, look, we keep robbing the issues. This is why after the Beijing conference, 25 years down the line, we're still seeing the same results, because you're not trying to contextualize and localize the issue. So you've been training women, you've been empowering them, you've been trying to challenge stereotypes, but you don't mobilize the resources they need. Women are not winning based on that. So for elector model, so there's the engage, there's the encourage, there's the equip. And the last part of it is really enable. And the whole idea of enable is sort of mobilizing social, human, and financial capital for ladies. Social capital, human capital is about getting like different talents to support them. And then the financial bit is we're actually fundraising at the moment at the back end. And we'll be announcing something in January, actually. And the whole idea is that as elector, we want to really fundraise a couple of women. Even if we're going to get 5 women and back them, the multiplier effect can be very catalytic, right? So for a lot of people that actually want to support women, I feel like if you really support women and back women, and if you want to ride on this social awakening and social consciousness, we need to have that money conversation. We need to be very bold about the money conversation. A lot of women are not bold about fundraising, unfortunately, which is a disadvantage. A man will call 10 of his friends and say, look, guys, I want to run for office. Drop money, I need 10 million each. They will look for it. We're still, and I think it's part of like our upbringing, our foundation as well, right? We're still shy around certain issues. Nigeria, this money politics is very real. And it's not even about vote buying. See, if you study the infrastructure and the logistic behind elections and campaign, you realize that money is extremely important. Because, motivation level, you're not going to this old charity thing, right? You want to gather people together, but you don't want to motivate them. It's not going to work. Your agent today, they have to be motivated. Their sleeping condition, the mental health. So I was speaking with someone, and Simifa Jamiroko, she's been a great case study for me. When I saw the way she evolved as an underdog to then becoming one of the strongest people in her constituency, even though she lost the election, party politics, right? But she fought a good fight, and that really put her on the radar. So one of the things she did was she did a mapping. She understood who she should be talking to. By the end of the day, she also understood electoral financing, campaign financing, working with the party agents and all that. When she actually oversaw the situation room for, I think, APC in 2019, she said something. Every day, we monitor their blood pressure, right? We understood what the diseases each of them had. We understood what the issues were. We provided them with food. This thing actually helps. It really actually like really raises the level of motivation as well. So I think women we need to stop being very fickle when it comes to election. We need to dig deeper. We need to really engage stakeholders very well. We need to have like a concrete fundraising strategy. Getting your network, getting your tribe from the private sector. Development wouldn't really fund elections, to be honest. But from the private sector, for private sector doesn't like funding elections. There's something I say. With the private sector is make a business case, right? Make a business case. They're very profit driven. But at the end of the day, is find people in your network who might be capitalist minded, but still understand the money game, make a case for yourself and raise your money.
Ibijoke, thank you so much.
Yeah.
I have a question for Nkiru, but before I ask Nkiru her question, I feel like I have a question for all of us on this panel, right? From Aderin Law to Yasmin to Nkiru and Ibijoke. If you, perhaps, let me create a case study. If you have a friend that reaches out to you and say, Ade, Ibijoke, Yasmin, Nkiru, need $5,000 each from House Rep. $5,000. I'm just being practical now because we're looking for solutions. Yasmin, I can't hear you. I think you're muted.
So hi. friend.
Okay.
I have the seriousness of mind to see it through to the end. There's somewhere I'm like, oh, why now? Let me just give you my 1K and move on.
Okay. That's fair enough. You wanted to say something?
Yeah, yes, I did. And hi, ladies. I think the contributions have been great so far. Look, I think that I would provide her the 5,000 USD if she answers a couple of questions. And the first question I'm going to ask of her is, what is the system and the structure she set up to enable her win? Very critical. The second question I'm going to ask of her is, who is her sponsor? And I mean her sponsor across strata. So who is sponsoring her from the top of the party where she is, and who are her advocates at the pyramid, in the party? I think those are the two critical questions, she must respond to, and before I provide her the funding. I mean, I speak on this panel purely from being a critical observer, and also Tricky is being more of a reader than anything else. And I remember reading Aisha Osori's book, Love Does Not Win Elections. And, whilst reading it, was, a few times I'd laugh, and I'm laughing from the absurdity, of what was going on. And a few times I'd laugh because I'm thinking, yeah, but from what she's saying, we could never have gone so far, if right systems and the structures weren't in place. So there is a lot for the women to consider before they come up. And it's kind of like, before you start a match, you're already giving a yellow card. And if that is the case, then there's a lot more groundwork that you need to do prior. And for me, it's a case of representation. Sponsorship is so critical, funding. And it's a paradox when I say support of women, but support of women is critical because we know what it is and what it's like when you get a large base of women. But I'll go to a system and structure. The women who come out to want to be governors, what is their precedent? And because from the start, the base of it, it often helps you build a strong base. Now, if you don't have that strong base, then you must have a sponsor. And who is your sponsor? Who's sponsoring you? And we don't care about sponsorship. A male can sponsor you, a female can sponsor you. We want somebody to bring the stick in the sand for you. That's very critical. And those are the kind of questions I think that, I beg your pardon?
Nkiru, I just want to, I had to interject. I just wanted to say something. Yasmin said she would definitely find out what the friend wants, and if the person is, I think she said something about dropping with 1K.
I think I was saying you want to make sure that the person has the seriousness of mind to see it through. Politics is very, very hard. It's very, very difficult.
Right.
So definitely I would want to see that it is someone who, they are committed to give that level. If not, if it's something where it's like, look, I'm just supporting you friend to friend, then let's reduce the amount. You have fun, and I support your experience building, but the higher amounts would go to someone who, I think for some of the things Nkiru has said, you see that there's a plan, that it's thoughtful, that they're like, no, I'm actually very serious about this, not just for bands. So, and I think that you have to ascertain that.
So perhaps we are asking for a well-laid accountability mechanism as well, because we saw what the feminist core ladies did during ENSA. Me back to the second point, and I probably think Ade should probably answer that. Do you think when men raise funds within themselves, they put out all of this proper mechanism to be sure, okay, you're running, who is your sponsor? How are you getting, you're going to go? Do you think men?
That to me?
Yes, that's to you.
Okay. I highly doubt they do that. But it's a known fact that women are more they're more what's the word? They're more accountable. Like they're more transparent. And I don't know, maybe it's because it's harder for women to get into some certain type of position. So it's also like a way of them trying to prove themselves like, okay, you know what, we're transparent, we're this. But then again, looking at everything that happened with Feminist Co, I think that also it had to do with the kind of women that were kind of running it. So a lot of these women are really exposed, they're educated, you know, they know the right things to do. So it's not just, so yeah, that's what I think. I think, yes, women are,
Okay.
I a few men, of course, some men are accountable, but women are, you know, we have that to get into certain positions. So we always have to try to prove ourselves. In other words, if that makes sense.
Yeah, it does. Nkiru,
Mercy, just a quick one. I don't know if I can add something, but you know, I think this
yeah, sure.
situation of saying, are men going to do the same thing? I think that's why we're where we are today. Ladies, I mean, men and women, we're framed and we're constructed differently, you know, by society, by everything. Let's take ownership and let's do what we know how to do very well. That's what I tell people, as opposed to being very analytical about if men will do it. Men have their language of connecting and speaking, and so they tailor it to that. And we need to find what works for the women clan and connect with ourselves that way. The feminist core ladies were able to do that in a very structured way, not just because they were educated, but it's just because, I mean, I hate to say because they were women and because they're more accountable, but it worked for them. Sort of that's like a case study for the proof of concept testing for us. So for me is, if you want to raise money, if you're my friend, I would ask you to, right? If you're my male friend, they want to raise money, I will ask you to. And the truth is that men ask men the same question. You're not going to go and meet a guy and say, I want to run for office, and he's going to give you 500 million or 100 million or 10,000. He wants to know how prepared you are. He wants to know, like Ikere said, he wants to know your sponsor at the party level, because it's about return on investment. You're not going to put in money without getting any, even if it's more of like a social return, but you want to understand that your money is not going to waste. So for me, it's just, let's get on with it. And instead of like trying to analyze everything, if your friend is asking you for accountability, give her your plan. It also helps you put things in perspective as well. So I'm still going back to Simi. When she wanted to run, and this is because I spoke with her extensively to understand like our process as well. When she wanted to run, the first person she spoke with said, she spoke with men and women, and it was same thing. How prepared are you to run, Simi? Where's your what's the plan? Who's sponsoring you? Why are you speaking at the party level? These questions are very generic. So I don't think it's more of like a male versus female conversation. I think it's more of, this is what happens when people want to put their money for anything. They need to ensure that there's return on investment.
Thank you, Ibijoke. I just felt like if we have women here that, you know, from participants to panelists, that work the game. I just feel like there's probably some lessons to learn from what men have been doing that works for them, that they can also take advantage of.
Absolutely.
That takes me to asking Nkiru this. I said Ibijoke that women are playing catch up. Omoyele Sowore, I think, raised about, because I spoke to him extensively about it, and he said he raised about $100,000 about that during his campaign. And I know that he has an entire network of supporters online. So it was brilliant to be able to pull that money. And I think that's the first time in the political space in Nigeria is raising that much for always be fact. I can tell you that, you know, if it's crowdsourced.
So I don't think that's like the highest.
Oh, you know, oh, okay.
No, because
I mean, I'll be glad to. I'll be glad to hear. Okay, that's nice. Okay, I'll come back to you, Aderola. I'll be glad to hear a contrary opinion too. But Nkiru, do you think that beyond, because I'm interested in what's the
hot ice cream?
I'm sorry. No, there's no hot ice cream anywhere. Sorry, I have. Okay. You know, beyond the conversations we're having about networking, trying to raise funds, there's a bigger picture. Getting the political parties to have a woman Black Sarah is a major concern. So we stop.
Mommy, I want ice cream.
I'm having a conversation. I'm so sorry. You know, how do we get women to go through that internal party hurdle? Because it's a lot.
Mm-hmm.
If you've spoken to women running for offices, they will tell you that that is where the main issue is. You know,
Hmm.
how do we get
Yeah.
women to the final stage within the major?
Look, when I was reading Aisha's book, a lot of things jumped out at me. And I think the first was how much, lack of support she got even from the gender. I remember one particular senior, and the narrative from when she went to meet a particular senior female politician, and the comments that were made. I remember saying, "Oh my goodness, why are we unnice to to each other?" But that's not the point. The point is, I feel like before you break through into a political sector, you need a few key players behind you. So to be able to break the chain or the ranks within the party, you need to do the work of getting the right people behind you. And when people are behind you, they will do the work for you. And knowing also that you are, can I call you an external? Therefore, you need internals to be able to do the work for you. And I know that I stray. There's a comment that was made earlier about funding. Now, and I just heard you with Showere's funds that he raised. When you see people who are interested in politics and who start early, I'm very procedural. If I want to know how to bake, I will find someone to teach me. Now you will find that they have attended the United Nations, the UN Women, has a school that takes you through the process of participating in elections. The lady who speaks quite frequently, Chika something, it's a P name from the Middle Belt. I think she's either Plateau. I think she's from Plateau State. And, she speaks about now understanding what it takes to get into politics. And she speaks about understanding the power of the media. And that's a powerful piece that I think should be taught in those processes. Now, what would it do for her? It would help her understand how to use social media to her advantage. And she's not leaving it to the usual, my PR managers and my teams. And everyone here remember the Obama fundraising methodology? I suppose maybe he thought to himself, yeah, I'm Black, maybe I have a few sponsors. And then he raised funds. And it was the usual public fundraising where people could even send in $10. So the point is, funding can be an issue. If you have gone through the training to understand what you need, there must be ideas and thoughts about how to raise that enormous fund. And social media can play a huge tool in that. To be honest, when I think about it practically in Nigeria, there's a huge room for a woman who knows how to navigate the media, to come through and drag from our emotional banks, to going for politics. I feel like we're waiting for that person. Years ago, and before I came on here, I thought of a lady, strange, her name is Uche. I just remember her name was Igbo and her surname was Yoruba. She contested to the Lagos State government. Maybe Bijoke would remember her. What's her name, Bijoke? Do you remember her? Uche something.
I can't remember her family.
No, okay. She came in to contest. She was a gubernatorial aspirant. And she did that election and we can't even find her. I've not seen her in years. So my point is, people like that at the time build some equity. What have they done with it? What are they doing with the representation? What has it done for the gender? So there's a bit of work, that needs to be done. Not a bit, a lot of work that needs to be done. And that's why I keep going back to the story of a system and structure. I feel like for a woman, there will be no shortcuts because we are already disadvantaged in the scope and in the power of the men in that sector. So you need to get a strong system and a structure, be able to break through would be my point. Thanks, Mercy. Handing over to you.
Thank you so much, Nkiru. I feel like everybody on this part provided. When we have, conversations like this during conferences, I am always worried that, we just talk about problems. I am just excited that if anybody who's followed this conversation since when we started, it has been what the solution should be for women and how, we should navigate that process moving forward. But we just have probably a few minutes left before we wrap up. I'll just like to take 5 minutes each just to these views about from mobilizations to funding to give us a 5-minute recap, what they think are the quick wins, because 2015 is, sorry, why am I saying 2015? Mercy, what's wrong with you? 2019 is just, you know, yeah. We are
2023
already,
around the corner.
what is wrong with me? I'm sorry. Yes, 2023 is, I mean, this is December, so like probably 1 year left, and the time to start is now. What, in your opinion, would you say is a quick win for a woman who wants to aspire to the most senior position? It doesn't matter if it has to be a GUBA office or senatorial or House of Representatives, or even the local government chairman or a councillor within the local the local level. I'll start with, what are the quick wins in 5 minutes?
Why are you always starting with me? But anyway,
Because you're rightly in front of me.
okay, so personally, I think if anybody just wants to decide today, like as we're having this conversation, that they want to contest in 2023, honestly, we should just forget about it. But that being said, I think that obviously, you know, kind of, I'm going to take something from what everybody has said. You know, you have to have enough money. Going back to what you said about Shewere raising $100,000, I think as at today's rate, maybe that's about 50 million. I think. I don't think that's it. I don't even think that's to run for like a Senate seat, let alone governor.
It's not.
I personally believe you probably need something in like the billions to actually, I would say, for Lagos State. So obviously you need like funding, like a lot of money. I think you have to obviously align yourself with the right people in whatever political party you want to, you know, go with. Since everybody seems to be woke now, you know, and everybody seems to be realizing that everybody that's been in power recently is like a waste of time. Obviously, try to align yourself with either a new party, which I'm not honestly sure makes a lot of sense, but, you know, align yourself with a party that is not the two major parties right now that have been ruining everything for us. You know, align yourself with young people, try to get with the grassroots, because I know that Ibijoke was saying something about how we need to bring people on social media and grassroots together, because it's like, you know, it works hand in hand, really true. But I will still say that the amount of people that amass the votes that the candidates actually look for, and not me and you. Votes actually definitely do count, but it's not thousands or hundreds of votes. You know, so obviously you need to go into your constituency, into your wards, talk to your elders, talk to, you know, it's a lot of work. You also have to be really serious, because the people who, if you think about it, the people who have been in the game for years, this is what we've been hearing. It just shows how, as much as they might be thieves or whatever, they must have ruined the country for us, but they know everything literally about politics in this country, and it's something they take very seriously.
Thank you so much. I know that before, you know, earlier on when we started, Ibijoke was talking about what the Electoral Act says about how much spending for governorship elections, 100 million, now it's 200 million. But let's be realistic. You need nothing less than 5 billion to run as governor in Nigeria. This is the start on ground, you know, because it's an entire money game that you have to play. So we don't just say 100 million out there will get. It's a big fat lie. It's not realistic. But yes, that's what the Electoral Act says, because even the players that you're going to compete with are not going along with 200 million to the ballot. You know? Yasmin, quick wins, 5 minutes.
I don't want to just repeat what Darren said, so I'm just going to, add in other things. I think if I was trying to run for governor, I would try to understand what voter turnout in my state looks like right now. And I would focus a lot on actually like voter registration efforts, and making sure that I'm actually just bringing in like the new demographic of people who are also wanting to vote. So, in addition to the money, in addition to, yes, I think it's going to be very, very hard to do something in a new party, but I guess if people want to try that, I think that's fair and it's a noble effort. But I think that if you can be the person who helps bring people into the political process, into the system, so that they know you first as a voter, that's also something that strategically could help you create a block that you then control. But I think, the money and the aligning yourself with the right people is also critical. And I think the final quick one I would say is just kind of understanding that, we all have like our principles and our morals and the ways in which we want to do things, but it's also important to understand that in Nigeria, like when you're running for politics, you're running into a system that has worked a certain way, and you as an individual are not going to change the system. It sounds terrible to say, but it's just, I think you have to be realistic. And so I do think that it's also going to be very, very important for people to understand that politics is about compromise. Sometimes you have to work with people who don't like, sometimes you have to work with people whose values don't align with yours. Sometimes you have to do what needs to be done to win, and it's a very unpleasant truth. But I think it's a truth that, we all just kind of just need to accept. And so sometimes something that I do worry about sometimes is that we can be very rigid. It's just unfortunate that like, that's just, you can't just go that way. You know what I mean? It's just, but I want to be proven wrong, but it's just, I don't know you as the ones in our system. You're gonna have to give it sometimes, and it's gonna be very difficult, and it will hurt you. It's gonna be painful.
Thank you so much, Yasmin. Nkiru.
I mean, I can't think of anything else but to say you need to embrace courage, and I suppose it's courage to start. I mean, it's courage to keep going. It's courage, to get up again, and get going when you fail. And, it's courage to do the things that you need to do that align to your personal values or maybe the values of your party. Because I just heard Yasmin saying you really need to do things that, be in bed with people you don't like, literally speaking. So I think that the only thing I'd leave on the table for anyone who's aspiring is to embrace courage. You're going to need it in the entire value chain of that journey. Thanks, Mercy.
Thank you so much, Nkiru. Ibijoke, there's a reason I left you last. So
I'm going to try to keep it as quick as possible, maybe because I'm like so passionate about this issue. But I think the first thing to work, start early, stop apologizing, and stop feeling entitled as well. If you want to go into politics, you have to be bold, you have to be resilient, but also do not feel entitled to put in the work. Unfortunately, women are placed on the highest scrutiny compared to men. So don't try to start that conversation. Rather, this is definitely contextualize, this is happening, but how can I work within the current framework and infrastructure to ensure that I can get ahead? Try to beat the system, don't let the system beat you. You have to understand local dynamics, very important, right? Second is connect with your constituency at the grassroots level. So I hear what Derry said about, that it's very, grassroots organizing is very important because, about 80% of voters actually come from the grassroots level, which is very important. So even as an elector, when we want to work in communications and everything, there's the grassroots, which is for voter, and then there's a candidate, which the women, our primary focus. So we need the grassroots level to vote. However, you have to build your social capital within the constituency level. So you need to do your stakeholder mapping. The same way you're going to do it in a workplace. Who are the people? See, we need to be political animals, right? You need to understand and align yourself. Who are the youth leaders? Who are the women leaders? What are the critical issues your constituency are facing? How can you plug yourself in as a major stakeholder? The men are bold, but women, we are born bold and resilient. So we should stop apologizing, get in there and do the work. Break down the stakeholder engagement process and start engaging from now. That's very important. Second of all is new media. I keep saying it. Media is an extremely powerful tool. And that was one of the reasons why the feminist core ladies were able to raise money. So for me, grassroots organizing is so important for getting your voters together. But you see the visibility you're going to build for yourself, the social capital you're going to build for yourself through leveraging social media. It's very important. When you put yourself out there in the faces of people are going to look for you to give you money. Tell your story. Don't let media tell your story for you. You need to give media something to work with. The by-elections, for example, you almost have nothing on the female candidates. We try to do like a gender analysis, almost nothing. But we found things on most of the male candidates. That tells you something. So start building that capital with the media, start telling your story, start, opinion, just get out there, share your thoughts about different things, let people get to know you. Don't mind them when they say you're obnoxious, but you're doing it with a purpose in mind. Another thing for me is, obviously, is aligning yourself. Ahead of 2023, look, I'm going to be very honest, and this is not electoral opinion, this is my personal opinion. When it comes to this old building like a new political party, the party system and the party structure in Nigeria is so complex, and there's a whole lot of like money that goes into it. So for new parties right now, I just don't know how much support they can really offer to candidates. What I would say is still try to get yourself within those bigger parties. Work with what you have now. You can't change the system right now. There's a growing social consciousness, which is going to be greater than take time, but also leverage the infrastructures that you have, the structures you have right now. Think of yourself as an independent candidate within a bigger structure, but then ride on them to actually get to the destination as well. I think for me, that's what a lot of men are going to do. And you're going to meet those men on the battlefield. So that's very important. For me also, one thing we don't talk about is early violence monitoring, right? Start understanding that. You need to analyze that so that you can start preparing for alternative security. And the reason I say that is when you look at 2019, a lot of women suffered from mental health issues after the elections. And speaking to what Nkiru said, like, the woman that ran for Lagos State, most of those women run after election, most of them just want to go away for a while. And most of them never come back to it. So preparing yourself and understanding the space so that you can build your resilience. And also please build your tribe. Build your tribe.
Thank you so much, Ibijoke.
I'm going to stop here, Mercy.
Thank you so much. Build your tribe. I think that's very important. Build your tribe, build your network, grow that network, and make sure you can reach out to them when the need arises, because you always need it. Ibijoke, I just want to add to what you said about the media. For anybody who's joined us, who is a participant on this program today, I would like you to know that as a woman, if you're able to put your media case study out there, you stand a chance of getting more media presence. I know this because I've worked with a lot of organizations around media and strategy. If CNN, FT, BBC, NTA, AIT, it doesn't matter what the media looks like, international or local, they're looking for candidates running for elections, and you're out there, you will be overwhelmed because women do not put out their work as much, and they want to be able to have a representation in the news. So when they're looking for representation in the news, everybody comes after you. They will be the ones doing the work that the men pay for. They're going to be doing the work for you for free because the women are not as much as you expect them to be. So what Ibijoke just said is very important. I want to thank everybody that made out time to come out here because I know we're all busy. We're all doing a lot. And it's COVID period. I am on lockdown in Berlin. So I'm just happy that we're able to catch up and talk about what matters most for women in politics. But before I say goodness and mercy shall follow us, I'll just say, Ade, Ibijoke, Yasmin, Nkiru, can you just tell us where you are, where you're speaking to us from? Can you hear me? I can't hear anybody. Okay, Yasmin, you said you're where?
I came to this is where my mom is from, so.
Nice. Okay. Greetings. Accra is my second home after Nigeria. Ade, where are you?
Lagos.
Hello. How is it going in Lagos?
Going okay.
Okay. Ibijoke?
I'm in Lagos as well.
Oh, okay.
Yes.
Good evening. And I think Nkiru is gone.
Yeah, I think she had to
ladies for panel. I loved it. And I am happy that we're able to pull through today. Have a good evening.
Thank you very much.